There once was a young boy from Sheboygan whose mom wouldn't let him have a toy gun. And then one day, he met his lovely partner named A, and together, they couldn't think of anything else that rhymes with Sheboygan. Ah, what the hell. I am Evo Terra, and this is the Books and Beer Hangout.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Books and Beer. We have a fantastic show for you today with two very special guests talking about the realities of being a digital author. Let's start with our first well-known guest, who probably doesn't need an introduction, but I'm sure he will introduce himself at great and boisterous length, Mr. Scott Sigler.
Hello, how are you?
Great. That's your introduction?
This is the part where I introduce myself?
Yes. Who are you? What do you do?
I am a fiction author, and I built my career on giving away free podcasts and my own self-recorded audiobooks. And back in 2005, I've been trying to get published for going on 9-10 years. Got a new agent. It's kind of like Stella getting her groove back, only more male and less groove. And then started to record my own audiobooks, give them away as free podcasts, and that built up an audience. Then via that audience, we put out a couple of paperbacks with Dragon Moon Press, a little Canadian imprint, and they went to #1 in sci-fi and #1 in horror on Amazon.com. That led to a print deal with Crown Random House, and I've been doing writing books for Crown Random House ever since. And I still give away everything I write free, unabridged, in weekly podcast episodes over at scottsigler.com.
And there's our podcast, everyone. Thank you very much. What are you drinking, Scott?
I'm drinking a little bit of the little nectar of the gods, a little Bud Light. You know, I know. Listen, all you people with your fancy foo-foo beers, you keep some people employed, but there's big factories that make this stuff, and those people got to eat too. So
those Germans are happy with you for supporting their country.
I love it for just the little dagger you stuck into Evo's soul with that, just like I know you knew you were doing.
Not the first time.
Yes. Now the wonderful Miss A.
Hi there. I'm A. Kovacs. I am the other half of Dark Overlord Media. I do all the non-creative things, which is actually a lot of fun and has to be pretty creative when it needs to be. But we put out a hardcover. I'm the one who gets those logistics done. We put out an ebook. I'm the one who fixes it and fusses with it and hires the right people to get it right. And I'm drinking Port Brew Wipeout IPA in just up the road from me in San Diego.
Now you see why I like her. So that makes up for what Scott's drinking. All right, so I, Evo, am drinking a Blueface Scottish Ale. See this? Mm-hmm. This is from the Battered Boar Brewing Company somewhere in BFE, Oklahoma. I was there a few weeks ago and brought back a whole bunch of beers, and it's pretty good. Look at that color, Scotty.
It looks almost green to me. A little bit maybe green.
Oh, no. No, it's not green at all. That's just the screen that's going on that one. So whatever you were saying, I'm glad you were muted. Jeff, what are you drinking?
So I have a Stone, one of my favorite breweries, 16th anniversary IPA, brand new. It says bottle condition, enjoy fresh, made August 2012. So this baby didn't make it out of the month alive, which is the way it should be.
Oh, there's a devil on the label of that beer.
Yes, there is.
There is a fantastic devil. And if Scott, if you have never read the label of an Arrogant Bastard Ale, you should, because it might read like an autobiography.
Yeah, you're exactly
right. And I mean that as a compliment, sir. So to get this started, start right at the very beginning with one of the little building blocks here. What does it mean to be an author these days? I mean, it's not just writing, it's all this other stuff. Scott, how do you define an author?
The high water mark, I guess, to be an author is, are you doing it full time? And that's because there's such varying levels of success for people once they've gotten to that full-time position, that I think that's kind of a good benchmark for what does it take to be an author. And full-time requires an enormous amount of learning your craft and building up your career to do that. You have to write a lot. You have to be producing content, producing product to put out into the marketplace. And I'm very lucky in that I have and she handles a lot of the things that needed to be a writer. It's not just writing. A lot of people will just write their stories and then throw their stories into Smashwords, get them up into the ebook store, start selling books, making some money. They have happy readers, happy authors. Everybody wins. But to go after it at the level we're going after it, where we're trying to build this into a full-time business for at least 2 people and maybe more, it's all the promotion, all the marketing. We're doing all of that ourselves, all of the book design, the cover design, hiring out to do that, all of the logistics and management of putting out 4-book paperback series and hardcovers, and then recording our own audiobooks and offering those up as both podcast, downloadable audiobook, doing ebooks in multiple formats, managing the website, and then a big revenue stream for us is running advertising against the podcasts. So creating the advertising, working with the vendors to make sure we're getting the message out that they want, then measuring the results and refining it so we can try and sell product for them while we're giving away our free entertainment. So, I mean, for us to be an author today it's soup to nuts. You're doing just about everything that needs to be done. I just built GalacticFootballLeague.com website because we kind of ran out of time to go out and hire someone. So as the author of the series, like I used to build websites 7 years ago. I'll figure out how to do this and go through up a website. So
did you use the blink tag?
What's that?
Did you use the blink tag as part of that?
I did. I've got a lot of flashing text in multiple colors.
Fantastic.
Fonts I could find.
I like it. I like it.
All right, so you are, I guess, the other half, the better half, however you want to define that, of the team here. All the other things that Scott talked about, this process, this pipeline, what does that look like? So, the old definition of an author was you write your book, there's a hardcover, a little while later, print cover comes out, you've got a million versions, and this comes out first, then that, and then now this is coming out in a new version. Can you describe that for us a little bit?
Sure, and I'll say it's easy if you think of it not from an author perspective, which of course I'm the non-creative in this 2-person deal here, and so for me, I think of it as a reader. And as a reader, you expect to see the hardcover first, then the paperback. You can have the ebook and the audiobook if those things exist. But it all kind of starts with the story and the hardcover. What I think I never realized before, and a lot of people maybe don't realize now, is so Scott writes for Dark Overlord and Scott writes for Random House. And at Random House, he has an editor called the Shiv, and Scott calls him the Shiv. He is a lovely man with a nice name, and I think he prefers not to have Scott drag it through the mud, maybe, I don't know. So we call him the Shiv. But he does everything. He manages, it sounds like he edits the words that Scott writes, but if you're just a reader, which I was in 2009, you don't realize he manages the cover art, he manages the in-book design, he manages the print schedule, he manages the publicity schedule, he manages all of those things, and that's his job, and that's what he gets evaluated on. And so when I think an author is like, well, I could put this in Amazon, I could upload this to Smashwords, they're not thinking all those things when they're like, let me go find an editor. They're going to find a copy editor only. And I think that's actually a pretty interesting revelation to me, because all those things mean a huge amount when you actually think about it. We're a little bit unique. We call ourselves a bridge publisher because we do offset print runs of the hardcovers. We partnered with Diversion Books and Perseus to put out paperback versions this past week or 2 weeks ago, and we printed those ourselves as well. So we're sharing quite a lot of the risk and reward, as it were. But that's a ton of work. That's stuff you don't think of. That's not, you package these up in your living room. That's warehouse space and loading docks and pallet jacks. And so if you're an author who's going to do this, you have to kind of think about all that stuff as well if you're going to do a physical product.
Right.
And over the years, we've had to learn a lot about how that can go astray.
So Scott, obviously, with what you and I are talking about, there's a lot of work to be done here. Surprise! It's a lot of work to run a business. But give us an idea of what your daily routine as an author looks like. I think a lot of people have a misconception about what it means to be an author. So you work as an author. What's a day look like for you?
Well, initially getting up, and because I've tried 9 ways a Sunday to find a way to work physical fitness into that. Now I'm running in the morning. So I get up, try and get about 6-ish, and then just go for a run, come back, then shower and prepare for the day. First hour of the day is usually dedicated to social media, to catching up with people who have emailed or made Facebook posts or tweets and things of that nature, because it's an important part of our business. Like, we're in the entertainment business. That's what we do. And when people reach back to you and say, however, that impacted them in any way, shape, or form, or they just want to joke around, it's important to respond to people and let them know, hey, you've been heard. We're out here. We're not this gigantic corporation that isn't listening to what you say. So the first hour, trying to get through the big backlog of social media stuff and email. And then from there, it really depends on what A has scheduled for me and what the current deadline is. If we're on a normal schedule, I usually write, I try and have 1,000 words done by 9 a.m., and that takes the edge off the day. From there, you can kind of relax and you're not too uptight about the rest of the things that you're creating. And then try to write till about noon or 1 o'clock. The goal is to have 3,000 new words a day. Or if I'm in the editing phase, go through as much of the editing as I can in that time. Then in the afternoon, it's usually move on to the business side of things, which do I have to interact with A to work on what is our plan for the next week? What do we have going on? Do I have to shoot video? Do I have to edit video? Because we try and incorporate a lot of video into our feed. And then, again, going back to the social media stuff, which is a big chunk of time. So it varies day by day, but what we're trying to go for is 4 or 5 hours of solid writing time, unless a big deadline shows up or we've fallen behind, which just happens in the creative process. You can't always schedule how the plot's going to work out. And if we've fallen way behind, then A does everything, and I just write for 12 to 14 hours a day and try and get caught up and get things off to Crown Publishing or to A or to our editors. But there's also working with Random House in there, and we had the Infected graphic novel come out, so we are chasing our artists to make sure we get our pages done and interacting with IDW Publishing. And if there's travel involved, if there's a con involved, everything gets thrown into coots. So a typical day is really hard to gauge, but that's roughly what we're going for.
But, it's funny, you say, I'm sorry, Evo.
No, please.
You say, if I'm behind on deadline, everything falls to A, and that sounds like you're shining me on or I'm so fantastic. And the reality is I have essentially a full-time job as well. And so when we shift things, what we're doing is prioritizing the non-creative things lower on the totem pole. And if you talk to our vendors, who hopefully all still like us, if you talk to our ebook designer, which is ebook architects, Chris may not love me all the time because I'm maybe less responsive. Or if you talk to the people who help us platform our website, those guys, Tay and GK, they hear from us in fits and spurts mostly. Because they get prioritized down lower in the totem pole too. Because if we were a UPS store, we'd be the same way. We do the best we can with the time we have.
Question for you: how many different works are you creatively working on at one time? Or like you writing a first draft of one and then doing editing on multiple, or do you try to keep one and take it through? And if you're working the editing process or rewrites, then that's the only thing in your head. How many do you have in the air at one time?
Well, I'll try and take a stab at this, and I'm sure A will have some corrections. What we're doing right now is I just finished Pandemic first draft and sent that off to Random House. And in the meantime of that, I'm working on a new project called Flyer, trying to write as much of that as I can while we're waiting for Pandemic. A is editing the MVP audiobook, which I finished recording a little while ago. And then we are, again, working on issue number 2 of the Infected graphic novel. We're working on the tour to go out and promote The Rookie and the Starter in paperback and managing The Rookie and the Starter in paperback with the publisher. And then we are preparing to, now that the MVP, the 4th book in the Galactic Football League series in hardcover is done, we have to prepare for our big shipping week to send that out in San Diego. So I think that's most of the stuff we're doing right now. Hey, what did I miss?
Well, I think you didn't really miss anything that we're doing right now, but I think Jeff's question might have been a little bit, I might answer it a different way to give other maybe other authors' insight. For Scott, he works well if he is focused on one creation of new product, new content at a time. So for him, what he actually does is he has a primary writing block of 3 or 4 hours a day or more if we can get it, but we almost never can, of a specific new content. Right now he said it's a book called Flyer. And then his secondary primary block of stuff is writing is editing, maybe editing an audiobook or recording an audiobook or something like that. It's not creation of new content, because we tried that once, and I won't tell you much about it, but I will tell you that the two books that are totally different, one is in the Galactic Football League series, 700 Years From Now, and the other was Real Time. Character names got mixed up and stuff like that just because it's exhausting. It's too many people in one melon at a time. So
that's exactly what I was wondering, because, Scott, hearing you talk about it, you've got so many things going on, it's kind of hard to figure out, are you really still taking one and following through, or are you really creating a bunch of those? So between those answers, perfect. So thank you.
So let me jump in with a question here, because Scott mentioned this word count that he's got. He mentioned all these tasks that this evil Mistress A is controlling for him. All right, A, you're working with this guy, and what do you do to keep him on task? I mean, the question I want to ask is, do you ride his ass when he misses deadlines or when he misses his word count? I mean, how much of a task mistress are you really?
You know what? We're about to head to Dragon Con, which will be in fact, we met at a party in your room 4 years ago.
Sorry.
September 1st. I'm not at all. I'm not. It's, among the grand things that happened in my life, not going to lie. Maybe not the whole Elvis story retelling part of that night, but, 4 years ago, this September 1st, and it's, we know a lot more now about each other than we used to, and I will tell you that it depends on why there's delays. If there's delays because he can't get his act together and he's super excited about his new tennis shoes, oh, Lord sakes, there is none of that. There is none of that. But if he's truly struggling, and that happens to any creative in any genre, if you are really, truly trying to be true to your characters and deliver for the people who are interested in reading, that's a struggle. And sometimes it's a struggle where I, as a reader, will be like, that sounds fine to me. And he'll be like, nope, gotta understand this, gotta unmantle it, dismantle it, gotta figure it out. And I'll be like, really? Sounds fine to me. He could just put on those shoes and walk out the door. So it depends on what it is. But I do a little bit of herding cats. I'm more, these days, 4 years into it, the biggest time spent for me in that regard is figuring out the right question to ask. If I ask him the right question, like, where is your focus and what is the problem, I can reorganize a little bit. And at this point, he sort of knows I do not like my schedule messed with after we've talked about it. If we haven't talked about it, he's got to do what he's got to do, But mostly it's that. It's kind of knowing what the issue is. And if the issue is some kind of fluffy BS, then he gets the wrath of the Irish New Yorker.
Well, it winds up being a really interesting push and pull, because like most creative types, if I didn't have a deadline, I could work on a book for 10 years to get it just right. But you can't run a business that way. You can't run a business putting out one product every 3 or 4 years and making sure that everything is exactly so. Especially being a creative, your tastes change on a daily basis, and you'll never get it entirely right. So A's job and Random House's job at the same time is to be like, okay, we want to work with you. We want you to make sure it's correct, but we have to put books on the shelves to sell to people so we can make money to pay salaries. So there is a company here to publish your books. I mean, it's a business. It's not. This isn't some artistic endeavor. We write books to sell stuff to entertain people, so they'll want to buy more books. So that's the push that comes from her side to make sure I'm on task and going for the deadlines. But being a horribly distracted person and also wanting to just dink with stuff to the nth degree, because my side of the coin is it's got to be right. There can't be a crazy hanging plot thread that doesn't go anywhere, or something that I complain about in other people's books, if people are going to drop $24.95 on this, I got to make sure as many things are right as can possibly be right. So on the one hand, you've got the creator who's absolutely trying to make sure every last detail is sweated, even if most people will never even notice most of these details. And then on the other hand, you've got the person managing the business who sees A's biggest role is she sees the big picture. A sees things in 2, 3, and 4 year chunks. I see things as far as when can I break for lunch. So without her, I would just work on the same thing forever. So it works out pretty well.
And we actually have come to, there's a few things that we do well that really took us a little while to figure out, but really everyone can do. Every creative, everyone, no matter what you're doing, everyone has what I call a creative adjacent. For Scott, the creative adjacent is me. I have a friend who makes ceramic necklaces, Surly Amy, some of you guys know her. Her creative adjacent is her husband. And he is not creative, but he understands the business part. So if you have somebody who you trust who's right next to you sort of saying like, right, that is 80% there. You have to let go enough to listen. And that's one of the biggest things that we've learned is I come from a project management background, and if I say like, right, we have to deploy the 80-20 rule here. You spent 20% of your time writing 80% of the story, and you've been bumblefucking. Can I say that? Bumblefucking?
Sure.
Okay. You've been bumblefucking with the last 20%. Now we're losing daylight and we're losing other things. It's really, truly taken like maybe 4 years for us to come to a way where I could say that without being super crazy about it, and he could actually trust me enough to say, okay, maybe we can sew this up and move on. And I think that's actually helping us more this year than it ever has before.
Okay, so I had a wrap-up question. I think you might have already answered yours with a little precognition there. What would be for somebody, an author who wants to get going in the digital space, what is the one piece of advice that each of you would give them, and what is the one thing you would tell them absolutely do not do, dumbass, that you see a lot of new authors do? So maybe is it get a Jason? Would that be yours or?
No, I would say there are. I think I sort of have two. I think you need a person who doesn't know you, who is a professional editor, and I cannot overstate that. No matter how smart they are, no matter how many errors they normally find when they read books, no matter how much they dig you. Trust me, because I started right there. That's how this business started. I was the girl who's super smart and catches a lot of errors, and there are 101 errors in our first product. It's embarrassing.
So get an editor. What should they stop doing?
They should hire a professional editor, and they should stop pretending that their first draft is print quality. Full stop. They need front matter. They need a title page. They need a copyright. They need an ISBN number, and you cannot take it out of Scrivener and put it into MS Word and then upload it to Smashwords and publish it on Amazon and expect anybody to think it's anything but amateur.
Testify, sister.
What are all these NaNoWriMo writers supposed to do on December 1st? Hello? Publish.
You know what?
Oh, God.
Yeah, they are supposed to go right into the editing page. But honestly, what they're supposed to do is this. This is the thing that I would tell every single creative. Go look at the favorite version of the product you're putting out that you did not make. Go look at your favorite book that is not one you wrote. That son of a bitch has cover art that the author didn't make. It has a title page. It has front matter. It has back matter. It has the dedication. It has an ISBN number. Do that. Copy that. That's what I would say.
Right on. All right, Scott, same question to you, and this is a stupid question, a stupid statement of mine, but try and go fast.
Okay.
One thing that's good they should start doing right away, and one thing they should stop.
I'll give you two things they should be doing right away. Right now, number one, they have to write every day. No excuses. If you're not writing every day, then go find something else to do. Honestly, you're not in it to win it. And start budgeting to get the things done that A talked about. If you are trying to write a book to sell to people, you want to collect money for a product that you are offering. That means you are starting a business. If you are starting a business, there is an investment required in that business. Don't half-ass it. Start putting money away for an editor. Start putting money away for cover artists, etc. Make the product professional, and don't use the excuse, oh, I'll just throw it up there. It'll be okay. If you're just writing it for yourself, that's fine. The second you put a price tag on it, and want to take other people's money. You are not writing for yourself anymore, and this isn't a little hobby, so treat it like a business, budget accordingly. And the thing they should stop doing is listening to people who have gobs of advice who aren't actually selling any books of their own. If you are spending your time listening to people who don't actually go out and sell books for a living, or at least sell a bunch of books and know what they're talking about, don't listen to those people. And especially the people lately I've been seeing everywhere, oh, I don't work for free. I never work for free. That's great if you're James Cameron and you've got this ridiculous track record. If you're just starting out in the business and you want to get an audience and you want to get your work in front of people so maybe they fall in love with what you do and want to pay for it, free is a great way to get in front of a new audience. And it's basically advertising. If you're giving content away for free, you're going to find ways to get more readers, more fans to pay attention to you and follow what you do. So don't listen to those people. Pay attention at whose blog you're reading, and if they don't have books in the Amazon store that are selling a bunch, move on to the next person.
That's outstanding advice from both of you. And that's also a wrap for the Books and Beer Hangout. But before we go, I need a couple of things we don't talk about normally from our faithful listeners here. Two things I need you to do out there, guys. Number one, help Jeff and I get to South by Southwest. We want to talk about digital publishing, and we're going to go anyhow, but hopefully we're going to be up there on stage. So go to epublishunum.com, click on the link that says blog, and right there you'll see a listing for the 2 submissions we've posted. Click, vote. That's all you got to do. It doesn't cost anything. It's quick and simple. Of course, that means it assumes you like the topics that we're talking about, and hopefully you do. The second thing I'd like for you to do is sign up for or tell your would-be author friends about this new 4 weeks to finished class we're offering. We're not telling you how to be a writer. What we're going to teach you to do is how to stop writing that book that you've been writing on for the last 10 years and do all the things that A just mentioned, front matter, back matter. If those things meant nothing to you and you had no idea what we're talking about in great cover art, we're going to teach you that in a 4-week class. So check that out. That's on author education on our website at epublishunum.com. Okay, very special thanks to both of our guests. Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you very much, A. Pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks to all of you out there for watching the show, however it is you might have found us. We record the Books and Beer Hangout live Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific Time as a Google Hangout on Air and at simulcast live on YouTube Live. Links to all of our prior episodes, plus information about our guest, can be found at booksandbeer.com. For more insight and education and helping authors survive and thrive in a digital world, please check out epublishunum.com. For Jeff Moriarty, I'm Evo Terra. Thanks for watching.